2019. In our lead stories, nationally, police commissioners agreed to an 8-point plan to deal with transnational crimes between Anguilla, St. Martin and St. Kitts and Nevis, and the Nevis Island Assembly to convene for the first sitting of the year. Regionally, Guyana's trade unions band together to fight whistle, put all foreign companies on notice. Internationally, Egypt's transport minister resigns after deadly train accident. And in sports, Greenhouse reigns supreme at Vojin in primary sports. We'll have the details of these and other stories after this message.
Another look.
Different from how you've seen it before.
Another look.
Takes an in-depth look into business, politics, science, technology, religion, and more.
Another look.
Featuring documentaries from the BBC, regional features, and local ones too.
Another look.
Every Monday at 3 p.m. on the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, Vaughan.
Welcome back. Another national news in detail. Commissioners of police from Anguilla, St. Martin and St. Kitts and Nevis have agreed to an 8-point plan to deal with transnational crimes between the three territories. The commissioners met in Barsteer on Monday to discuss ways the three can combat the growing problem of illegal firearms and gang-related violence. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, Osmond Petty, pointed to establishing legislation for extradition between St. Martin and St. Kitts Nevis, intelligence sharing of gang members traveling between the territories, and monitoring for human trafficking. The Commissioner of Police in Anguilla, Paul Morrison, acknowledged that they continue to face challenges when it comes to crime. He notes that dealing with the statistics of crime has to be done through a collective effort. St. Martin's Commissioner Carl John, while acknowledging that the Dutch system is completely different from its neighboring islands, which brings a lot of difficulties, they are willing and also committed to want to look at commonalities in legislation and even try to advise their government on how to make it easier to work together. The Nevis Island Assembly will meet on Thursday, February 28, 2019, in what will be the first sitting for the year. During the sitting, which begins at 10 a.m., Premier of Nevis and Minister of Finance, Honorable Mark Brantley, will seek leave to introduce and have read a first time the Nevis International Exempt Ordinance 2019. According to the order paper, the sitting will commence with the formal entry of President of the Nevis Island Assembly, the Honorable Farrell Smithen. His entrance will be followed by prayers, a motion for approval of the order paper as circulated, messages from the Deputy Governor General, announcements by the President, papers to be laid, statements by ministers, personal explanations, introduction of the bill and its first reading followed by the adjournment. A man is in police custody in relation to a firearm that was found in the village area on St. Kitts on Tuesday, February 26th. One of the members of a joint patrol in that area observed the individual with what appeared to be a firearm. The individual ran, was pursued by the members of the security forces, and apprehended shortly after. A search of the area resulted in the discovery of a .38 revolver with 5 rounds of ammunition. The firearm was taken into police custody. This brings the total number of illegal firearms taken off the streets of all communities to 6. The Sadlers Primary School walked away with the Sir Probin Innes Trophy in the finals of the History and Heritage Primary School Quiz held on February 26th at the Anglican Church Hall in Barsteer. 4 primary schools in St. Kitts went head-to-head in the finals. The competition showed off just how knowledgeable the youngsters were in the history, geography, and culture of St. Kitts and Nevis. The other participating schools were the Tyrrell Williams, Joshua Obadiah, and the George Moody Stewart schools. The official opening of History and Heritage Month, which is celebrated annually in the month of February, took place on January 31st at the Matheson House at Taylor's Range. The month-long calendar of activities, which was started by the late Sir Probin Innes, is being celebrated under the theme African Survivals in St. Kitts and Nevis. The Ministry of Education has renewed its commitment towards the development of a policy to implement ICTs in the national curriculum. A representative from the Catholic University, CU in Washington, D.C., was in the Federation on a fact-finding mission for the development of an ICT policy in this regard over the period February 18th to 22nd. This mission was headed by Dr. Martha Cruz following her initial visit in 2017. Dr. Cruz stated that the CU has since distributed and received recommendations from various stakeholders within the Federation on how they think ICT can be utilized in the classroom. Thus, the findings were presented on this mission and feedback on said findings was received. Education planner Quinton Morton said the ministry is poised to fulfill its mandate in the Education Sector Plan 2017 to 2021, policy goal number 2, which seeks to strengthen the quality and relevance of education at all levels to improve learning outcomes. He said the recently enacted contract with the cable internet provider that increased bandwidth across all the public schools in St. Kitts, renewed licensing for Office 365, and the implementation of OpenSys and training for staff in the program. The ICT Integration Initiative will now focus on creating the framework for the ICT policy and establishing targets and goals. The creation and implementation of pilot tests for specific initiatives geared towards teacher capacity and helping students grow are currently underway. The Ministry of Education is working assiduously to host an awards ceremony and cocktail reception in honor of persons who retired during the period 2015 to 2018. The event, which is slated for Thursday, 14th March 2019, will be held under the distinguished patronage of His Excellency, the Governor-General, Sir S.W. Tapley Seaton, GCMG, CVO, QCJP. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Mr. William Hodge, says the ministry is appreciative of education personnel, but this time the focus is on those who have retired in recent years. Over 80 persons have been identified as qualifying to receive an award for their contribution to the education sector. A committee of education officials has been meeting periodically to organize a special appreciation event for March. A release from the Ministry of Education states that there are several award recipients overseas, and there are those who have promised to travel to St. Kitts and Nevis for the occasion. One highlight of the evening will be a feature address by Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, who once served as Minister of Education. And finally, the Ross University School of Veterinary Medicine, RUSVM, announced a partnership with Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College CFBC, the leading post-secondary education provider here in St. Kitts and Nevis. The agreement will establish a program of collaborative research to promote the advancement of science, technology, and learning through student and fellowship research opportunities. The agreement was signed on February 26, 2019 at the CFBC campus. An initial area of research focus will be aquaponics, a system that combines aquaculture, or raising aquatic animals, with hydroponics, cultivating plants in water. RUSVM and CFBC will conduct this research in collaboration with the Department of Marine Resources with the goal of making St. Kitts and Nevis more food secure as a result of improvements in producing vegetables and fish for consumption. That's the national news segment. You can visit our website at www.vonradio.com or check us out on Facebook at Von Radio and our Von Radio YouTube channel. News from across the region is next.
Nevis, we know you have your personal as well as your business needs, and we're here to help. Our knowledgeable staff will work with you to help you achieve the financial success that you or your company needs in a competitive market. We offer solutions that make your banking experience easier, like our savings and checking accounts. Be sure to ask about our youth savers accounts and our Bank of Nevis Gold Club. We offer a wide range of personal loans, including mortgage, land, student, auto, and consumer loans. Have access to your funds instantly with our BeOnline internet banking and our debit and credit cards. We make international banking and investing easy. How's your business? Give it the leverage it really needs by letting the Bank of Nevis assist you with all the necessary funding for all your business expenses. It's that easy. What are you waiting for? The Bank of Nevis Limited, improving the quality of life.
Like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/The Bank of Nevis. Welcome back. Another regional news in detail. In a strong signal of a growing anger, Guyana's trade unions yesterday met to find ways to respond to the current ongoing crisis at Rusal, Upper Berbice in Region 10. It would have been an unusual setting at the Critchlow Labour College for a number of unions which traditionally had been at odds with each other. However, the situation with bauxite workers, scores who have been fired by Rusal, has galvanized the unions, finding a common cause. According to the unions, the actions of Rusal's subsidiary, the Bauxite Company of Guyana, Inc., BCGI, is a situation that cannot be left unchecked, lest other foreign investors believe that they can treat local workers with the same disdain. Among the options being considered are picketing the Queenstown office of Rusal, engaging the Russian embassy, and a visit to the Aroma and Kurubuka mine site to check on the situation. The Bahamas Tourism Minister Dionisio Aguilar expressed surprise following the release of the U.S. State Department's recent travel advisory on the Bahamas, particularly considering crime there has been trending downwards. The advisory, which the minister stressed is quite similar to the last, urges visitors to exercise increased caution as violent crimes such as burglaries, armed robberies, and sexual assault are common even during the day in tourist areas. The statement points out that the vast majority of crimes occur in New Providence and Grand Bahama Islands. The minister said the Ministry of National Security is looking into exactly how many foreign visitors experience some sort of crime activity or crime incident. When asked if he expects the advisory to impact the country's bread and butter industry, he told reporters, "Well, it's exactly the same travel advisory as last year, and the number of stopover visitors increased by 17%, so I'll leave it there." The Bahamas last year enjoyed a banner year with every expectation that the numbers coming out of 2019 will be equally impressive. And finally, Puerto Rico's President of the House of Representatives, Carlos Mendez Nunez, presented a measure to create the first special commission for the study of climate change and global warming in the history of the Legislative Assembly of Puerto Rico. The purpose is to establish a public policy that aims to mitigate the impact of this effect on the island. The jurisdiction and main function of the Commission will be to study all matters related to the proposed legislative measures and comprehensive reforms that address the needs and promote any aspect related to global warming and its effects, if any, on Puerto Rico. Focus will be made especially on the coast, infrastructure, ecosystems, economic development, tourism industry, and preparation of public security elements. It is expected that the plenary of the House of Representatives will approve this afternoon the joint resolution 1300 of the authorship of Mendez Nunez. That's it for regional stories. Stay with us for news from around the world. Welcome back. Another international news in detail. Egypt's transport minister Hassan Arafat has resigned hours after a deadly train crash on a Cairo railway station. At least 20 people were killed when the train collided with the barrier and burst into flames next to a busy platform. Officials have promised a thorough investigation. The BBC's Sonny Nobielis has the report for the site of the crash.
Reports say that the fuel tank inside this car exploded as a result of the collision. The people here say they have seen many charred bodies lying on the ground. There is heavy police presence here. Medical sources say casualty numbers are on the rise. There has been constant criticism for the safety record of the transportation network in this country. The government says it's working hard on improving it, but deadly train crashes keep happening.
Donald Trump's disgraced former personal lawyer said he knows the president is a racist, a conman and a cheat. Michael Cohen made the comments in evidence to the House Oversight Committee in Washington.
I am ashamed of my weakness and my misplaced loyalty, of the things I did for Mr. Trump in an effort to protect and promote him. I am ashamed that I chose to take part in concealing Mr. Trump's illicit acts rather than listening to my own conscience. I am ashamed because I know what Mr. Trump is. He is a racist, he is a con man, and he is a cheat.
Mr. Cohen spoke about what he said were the president's racist remarks, payments of hush money to a porn star he had an affair with, and he has sought to hide his school grades and ways of avoiding military service. The White House has said no one should take a convicted felon like Michael Cohen at his word. Pakistan says its Air Force shot down 2 Indian fighter jets over the disputed border region of Kashmir in a significant escalation of the crisis between the 2 nuclear-armed powers. India confirmed the loss of 1 plane and said it shot down a Pakistani jet as it responded to the incident. Pakistan's chief military spokesman, Major General Asif Ghaffar, claimed 2 Indian jets were downed in Wednesday's operation. 1 fell inside Pakistan-administered Kashmir, while another went down in the Indian-administered region of Kashmir, he said on Twitter. Ghaffar initially claimed 2 Indian pilots were arrested and said 1 was being treated for injuries in a military hospital. But on Twitter later today, he said only 1 was in military custody. Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif offered to resign on Monday, saying he hoped to allow his ministry to reclaim its proper statutory role. On Tuesday morning, he urged fellow diplomats not to follow his lead and suggested that he had resigned because he felt he had been sidelined. His role negotiating the landmark 2015 nuclear deal with the world powers exposed him to sharp criticism from hardliners. Many hardliners opposed the decision to accept limits on the country's nuclear activities in return for lifting of crippling sanctions. Pressure on Mr. Zarif grew last year after U.S. President Donald Trump abandoned the deal and reinstated U.S. sanctions targeting Iran's oil and banking sectors. And finally, London-based startup OneWeb is set to launch the first 6 satellites in its multi-billion-pound project to take the internet to every corner of the globe. The plans could eventually see some 2,000 spacecraft orbiting overhead. Wednesday's launch of Soyuz rocket from French Guiana is timed for 6:37 p.m. local time. OneWeb will see Soyuz rockets launching every month, lofting up to 36 satellites at a time. To provide global internet coverage, there will need to be 648 units in orbit. Controllers at OneWeb's headquarters in the UK capital will be waiting to pick up signals from the spacecraft when they come off the top of a Russian vehicle. The platform's most important task is to secure the frequencies needed to relay the coming network's internet connections. Assuming these pathfinders perform as expected, OneWeb will then begin the mass rollout of the rest of the constellation towards the end of the year. That brings us to the end of our news segments. The latest in sports is next.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes?
You know when I call you, there's something happening at TDC, right?
Tell me quick.
The TDC Home and Building Depots are showing us love in February. All month long, they're promoting their heart-healthy products. This includes gym equipment, juicers, blenders, yoga mats, and so on. Plus, every Saturday, you can get your free in-store heart-healthy checks done.
Really, girl?
Yes, and keep fit every Tuesday afternoon during their heart-healthy series at the TDC Clubhouse on the Frigate Bay Road. Culturama Body in Progress.
Well, I don't want to miss out, so we must go by TDC Home and Building Depot this month.
Welcome back. Another sports in detail. The VOJN Primary School held its annual sports meet under the distinguished patronage of past student athlete Corinne Liebert on Friday, 22nd February 2019. After a match pass, the athletes hit the track in the 400, 1200, 800, 200, 100, 4x100 and 4x400 meter races. The final point standings: Greenhouse 328 points, champions. Gold House 301 points, second. Blue House 285 points, third. England beat the West Indies by 29 runs to take a 2-1 lead in the 5-match one-day international series. After being asked to bat by the West Indies, England scored a record 418 for 6 of their 50 overs. Josh Butler, 150, Captain Owen Morgan, 103, and Adam Hales, 82. Brathwaite and Thomas, 2 wickets each. West Indies in reply, 389 all out in 48 overs. Chris Gayle, 162, Darren Bravo, 61, and Carlos Brathwaite, 50. Mark Wood, 4 for 6, and Rashid, 5 for 85. The final match will be played in St. Lucia on Saturday. Interim West Indies coach Richard Pybus believes veteran opener Chris Gayle has made a resounding case for his inclusion in the World Cup squad later this year. Gayle emphatically announced his return to the Caribbean side following a 7-month break, slamming his 24th one-day 100 in the opening match of the ongoing 5-match series against England. Pundits, however, have questioned Gayle's commitment and fitness, but Pybus said the 39-year-old would be an enormous asset to the West Indies side for the May 30th to July 14th showpiece in England. The left-handed Gayle is by far the most experienced player in the current West Indies setup, having played 287 ODIs and lies just 88 runs short of becoming only the second West Indian to crest the 10,000 run mark behind the iconic Brian Lara. His 24 centuries are also a Windies record, and his subtle off-spin has already earned him 165 wickets. Roger Federer claimed his 50th win of the Dubai Tennis Championships by beating Spain's Fernando Verdasco in 3 sets to reach the quarterfinals. Federer moves a step closer to his 100th ATP singles title with Wednesday's 6-3, 3-6, 6-3 victory. The 20-time Grand Slam winner, 37, will face Hungarian world number 35 Martin Fucsovics for a place in the last 4. And finally, the Brown Hill Basketball League will continue this weekend. The upcoming matches are Saturday, 2nd March, Dynasty Ballers versus Eagles at 7 p.m. CG Rebels versus CG Massives at 9 p.m. Sunday, 3rd March, Dynasty Ballers versus Eagles at 7:30 p.m. and Bronx Crisis versus CG Rebels at 8:30 p.m. That's it for sports. The local weather forecast is next. Welcome back. Another local weather forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis. Weather tonight will be partly cloudy with a 30% or low chance of showers. Weather tomorrow will be partly cloudy with a 20% or slight chance of showers. Winds are east at 19 to 37 kilometers per hour or 12 to 20 knots and gusting higher in showers. Seas are 1.5 to 2.1 meters or 5 to 7 feet. A small craft operator's advisory is in effect. Sunrise tomorrow will be at 6:30 a.m. And that's how we wrap up the Midday News package for today, Wednesday, 27th February 2019. Before we go, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Nationally, police commissioners agreed to an 8-point plan to deal with transnational crimes between Anguilla, St. Martin, and St. Kitts and Nevis. And Nevis Island Assembly to convene for the first sitting of the year. Regionally, Guyana's trade unions band together to fight Russell, put all foreign companies on notice. Internationally, Egypt's transport minister resigns after deadly train accident. And in sports, Greenhouse reigns supreme at VOJN Primary Sports. On behalf of the rest of the news team, I am Tashan Tyson, wishing you a pleasant evening.